Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for gets. Jimmy Butler has himself a game. Heat take the series to 2-1. Make it a series. Make it interesting. Cowboys lose. Eagles win. Brady looks like himself again. Brady looks like the GOAT. Back in England, Liverpool and United get absolutely trashed. Crazy weekend of sports. My name's Ismael San Juan. This is Hard to Handle Sports, episode 9. Let's get to it. Jimmy Butler, man oh man, he put on a show yesterday. If you guys didn't see it, I suggest you guys go watch some highlights. Go check out NBA Finals Game 3. Jimmy Butler went off, man. Jimmy Butler scored 40 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds, put that team on his back. It was just a great performance. He controlled the whole game. 13 assists, 11 rebounds, 40 points. He was the best player on the court yesterday, easily. LeBron and AD didn't show up. AD had early foul trouble, so that was a part of the reason why he wasn't so aggressive and he could never get into a good rhythm. LeBron just looked very passive. It looked like he might have been a little uninterested in the game. Definitely expect more from him. I believe he ended with 8 turnovers. That's unacceptable. LeBron can't be turning the ball over that much. He can't turn the ball over that much, and the Lakers expect to win. It's just not going to happen. The Miami Heat are a good team, even without Bam, and Dragic. So yeah, shout out to the Heat. I'm actually, as a Laker fan, I'm obviously upset that the Lakers lost Game 3. But as a basketball fan, I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy just because it's the NBA Finals. Like, this is what we wait for the whole year. We want a competitive finals. And I want to see a competitive finals, especially because, like, the last few years when the Warriors were dominating, like, those finals were not that fun. Like, it was an aforementioned who was going to win. It was going to be the Warriors. I do live in the Bay Area, so it's kind of cool. Not really. I don't really like Warrior fans, but it was a foregone conclusion. It was a formality at that point, just going to just watching the games, just seeing the games just because they're on, not because, you want to see who's going to win. You kind of always knew that the Warriors were going to win, other than when LeBron came back 3-1. But I thought this season was going to be the first season in a long time that it was going to be competitive and it was going to be like a really good final and anybody could get there and stuff like that. And honestly, the Lakers had pretty much coasted all the way to the finals, and then to sweep in the finals wouldn't be as entertaining. So shout out to the Heat. Shout out to Jimmy Butler for coming out yesterday, firing on all cylinders. They deserve a win. They got one. I would be very surprised if they get another one, to be honest. I don't think Jimmy Butler could keep playing 45-plus minutes and then do this much, get triple-doubles, get 40-point triple-doubles, and then I don't think AD will get in foul trouble like that again. I don't think he'll be as timid as he was yesterday. I feel like it's all a reaction of getting early fouls. Like, once you get early fouls, you don't play as aggressive on defense or on offense, just because you always have that possibility of getting another foul and then you get pulled out and then you're sitting in the bench just watching. So I think that's what it was for AD. I don't want to give him any excuses. It's unacceptable. Like, the level of performance he had yesterday was just not what we've come to expect from him. And LeBron too. It looked like they were super passive. They weren't. It kind of felt like they didn't take the Heat seriously, especially during the game. The Heat took an early 13-point lead, and then within 5 minutes, the Lakers came back and took the lead, and then they kind of let off the gas again, and then early third quarter, Heat take a 14-point lead, and it's like, all right, do the Lakers have it in them to bring it back? And they did, and they brought it back, and they took the lead. And the Lakers actually had the lead with like 8 minutes and 55 seconds or something like that. 8 minutes, 55 seconds, they had the lead, and then they let off the gas again, and then Jimmy Butler kind of took over, and then it was too late to make another comeback, and then that was the game. So what I expect from the Lakers is I expect them to take the Heat more seriously. I expect them to come out with more intensity next game, and I expect AD and LeBron to play like AD and LeBron, two of the top 5 players in the league. And if they do that, the Heat, no matter how many points Jimmy Butler puts, they don't have a chance. I would say if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero start getting hot, they might have smaller chance. But I don't think it's just so much that they're cold. It's more that the Lakers just have such a good defense that they're not letting them get the shots that they want. So if Bam comes back for Game 4, they might have a slight higher chance. But honestly, I think the Lakers are gonna win the next 2 games. They're gonna close this thing out. It's gonna be another 5-game series, and then that's gonna be it. But I do want to just harp on the fact that I'm giving Jimmy Butler all the props in the world. He played amazing yesterday. I know he got a lot of bad slack during his time in his previous teams. He played for he got drafted by the Chicago Bulls, 30th overall, last pick in the first round. And then he developed there. He went from like a defensive player to like a 3-and-D, or not really a 3-and-D. He never had the 3, but he was just a really good defensive player. And then his offensive game came, and he became like an all-star with them. And then he fell out with the Bulls, and he went with Minnesota. And then he fell out with Minnesota and went to Philly. And then he fell out with Philly, and now he's with the Bulls. I mean, with the Heat. And during those years where he was transitioning from team to team, he always got that bad label that he was like a cancer in the locker room, that he was too outspoken, that he rubbed people the wrong way. And now he's with the Heat, a real decent organization that actually knows what they're doing, that is well run by Pat Riley and everybody there, Spoelstra. And you see that it might have not been Jimmy. It's probably the other franchises that just didn't know how to be run, or then they don't expect greatness from their player, or their goals are just not the same as Jimmy. And Jimmy, being the competitor that he is, was not comfortable or would be outspoken when he was in those situations. Like, hey, come on, like, this is not the right. And then the players from those teams, Cat, Embiid, or whoever you want to say from the Bulls, they're not the competitor that Jimmy is. So I could see how he would rub some people the wrong way. But I'm glad he's getting his shine. I'm glad people are mentioning him. Everybody has Jimmy Butler name in their mouth. Everyone's talking about him. Everyone's like, damn, this guy's legit. He's pushing himself to like the upper tier of NBA players, and I'm very happy for him, especially just because he was not a big name. He came out of Marquette. He developed. He trusted the process. Basically, his grind never stopped. He was never like a 5-star recruit. He never had the notoriety, and now he's in the finals. He's balling out. 40-point triple-double. I did find it funny when he told LeBron and the Lakers that you're in trouble, and then I know some Laker fans were like getting upset, or just some fans were like, oh man, why is he talking like they're about to get a gentleman's sweep, and like he's gonna regret that. But honestly I love when NBA players talk their talk, and like when they're feeling themselves. I think it adds a nice aspect to the game. Like, you should want to talk shit to other players. You should want to let your emotions out. It's a competition. It's a high intense competition. Like, you want your players to feel free and talk their talk. And later on in the press conference, he announced, or he clarified that situation. He said that LeBron was the one that actually, like in the first quarter when the game was kind of closed, LeBron told him that they were in trouble. So he was just getting him back at the end of the game when he kind of closed it out, and he was just getting LeBron back for what he told him in the first, which makes sense. He was like, nah, I'm not just going out there talking shit. But I know people are already gonna have that clip ready for if and when the Lakers beat the Heat, that they're gonna have that clip of Jimmy Butler saying, yeah, you guys are in trouble, just to rub it in his face that no, in fact, the Lakers were not in trouble. And then the other one that caught my attention was after Jimmy Butler did that, and then I think that he got a stop, and then Tyler Hero went down the court and he got an N1 to completely just ice the game. And then he started mean mugging the camera, and he was acting all tough, and he was feeling himself. And I honestly, I like that too. I was like, all right, let's bet, let's do it. Let's run it back game 4. Let's see what y'all made of. But I already on Laker Twitter, I already saw people making edits, because this has happened to the Lakers throughout the whole playoffs, where a team gets a game on them and they start getting super confident. They start getting super, their bravado goes up. They just get really pumped. They think they're gonna win the series, It happened in game 1 of the first round versus the Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard scored like a dagger 3, and then right as he's coming back to defense, like there's a song playing in the background, and he likes that song, so he starts like dancing. And then in the second series against the Rockets, game 1, the Rockets, Russell Westbrook got like a dagger shot towards the end of the game, and he was just looking at everybody and just talking his shit. He was just like he was like barking at everybody, and the announcers even like mentioned it, like, oh, and he's talking to anybody that'll listen to him, and he's just barking at everybody, like what Russell Westbrook always does, like just being super like animated with his like head movements and stuff as he's talking, like ah. And I was like, all right, that's dope. I honestly, Russell Westbrook used to be my favorite player in the NBA, so I was like, you know what, that's cool. Like, you guys got game 1, fine, let's do it. And then they never won a game, so it was funny. That got added to the edit. So both Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook game 1, feeling themselves, and then they never won a game. And then in the Western Conference Finals against the Nuggets, Lakers were up 2-0 in the series, and then in game 3, Jamal Murray hits a dagger 3 to close it out, and they get that game. And as he hits that dagger 3, and he's walking back to his sideline or to his bench side, he starts like doing a little dance, like, feeling himself, and everybody was like, all right, this is gonna be the exact same thing as what happened earlier with Lillard and Westbrook. And sure enough, Nuggets didn't win another game, and they lost in 5. So I feel like this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen to Jimmy Butler, and it's gonna happen to Tyler Hero. Like, yeah, you guys got a game. Congratulations. I honestly appreciate you guys' little swaggers to you guys. Like, honestly, keep that up. More players in the NBA need to just not be buddy with their opponents, and just talk their talk. But I think that's it. I think that's the only game the Heat are gonna get. I think the Lakers should wrap this up in the next 2 games. And if I'm not mistaken, today's Monday. They play again tomorrow, Tuesday, and then Thursday. By Thursday, Lakers should be crowned NBA champions. As far as the NFL is concerned, Week 4 is almost in the books. I'm recording this early Monday, so we still have 2 Monday night games going on later on today. But most of the games are done. I'll put the scores up just right here, just so you could see them, and I'll put them in the description, just so if you're listening to this on something, you could just take a quick little glance at them. Or most people know the scores or whatever, but just I have some Week 4 shout outs that I wanted to say, that because I'm not really gonna get into all the games. I'm just gonna talk about like 3 or 4. But before I get to those games, I wanted to give some Week 4 shout outs. My number one shout out for the Bills. Shout out to the Bills for beating the Raiders. They look good. The Bills are 4-0. The AFC is, I still think it's the Chiefs and then everybody else, or like the Chiefs, a gap, the Ravens, and then everybody else. But the Bills are starting to creep up. They're starting to get in that conversation. They're starting to be that third team that is like, all right, maybe they could compete against the Ravens and the Chiefs. They could be the one that spoils it for one of them and prevents us from seeing a Chiefs versus Ravens AFC conference final. But the Bills, Josh Allen is playing great. He had another solid game against the Raiders yesterday. The defense looked like they're starting to pick it up. I mean, when you have Josh Allen and they're putting up that many points, the defense just has to be respectable, and they've been respectable. They kept the Raiders. They got some timely turnovers. So the Bills are looking good. I had them making the playoffs as the highest wild card, and I had the Patriots winning the division. They still haven't played this year, so the Patriots could come back. But the Patriots play the Chiefs today without Cam Newton, so that's going to be a loss. So they're going to be 2 games behind the Bills after 4 weeks at 2-2. So they got some work to do. They got to catch up to them. So it's looking pretty good for the Bills. It's looking like they could win the division this year. So shout out to the Bills. Another quick shout out to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, my man, got his first win of the season. They beat the Jaguars. They look good. Joe Burrow has Just look, he looks comfortable in the pocket. He looks comfortable in the NFL. He had a great season last season in college, and now he's transitioning to the NFL, and it looks like he's seamless. If you're a Bengals fan, you should be very, very excited for the future. This team is still like not the best. It's still pretty mediocre across the board, but now you have the one piece that could change your franchise. If you have your quarterback, everything else comes within time. And it looks like you have Joe Burrow now. He looks legit. He looks like he belongs. He looks like he could be the second best quarterback in that division after Lamar Jackson. Like, it'll be Lamar Jackson. Big Ben's getting older. He's probably going to retire soon. Mayfield, I'll talk about him in a little bit, but I don't trust Mayfield. Joe Burrow. Bengals have Joe Burrow. I feel like him and Lamar Jackson, they're going to compete for the AFC North for a long, long time. I mean, I'm kind of jealous. If I had an NFL team and I see the Bengals with Joe Burrow, I'm like, damn. I'm kind of jealous. I'm kind of jealous of the situation you're in. But shout out to Joe Burrow. You got your first win in the NFL. I know that must have felt good. Cheers. Hope you guys get. I don't think the Bengals will get many more. They'll probably end up with like 3 or 4, maybe 5, probably 4. I see them getting like 4 wins, and that's it. But shout out to Joe Burrow. You've looked amazing, man. I know you're going to have a great season, and you're probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Last shout out I wanted to give, or 2 more shout outs. One in the AFC, one in the NFC. Shout out to the Colts. The Colts, they lost week 1 to the Titans, I believe, and they didn't look good. I had said the Colts were going to win the division, and I was really like on the hype train for the Colts, and then people were like, man, you're crazy. But now they're 3-1. They took care of the Bears. They humbled the Bears. I've been saying the Bears were a fake 3-0. Like, I did not trust the Bears at 3-0. I was like, honestly, I don't even see them making the playoffs. Like, they're gonna choke this away. They're gonna finish like 8-8 or something. And the Colts, with their number 1 defense, they went and just took care of the Bears. Rivers, their new quarterback, he's been all right. He hasn't been spectacular. He hasn't been terrible. He's just been all right. He's been good. He's been what they need. They're a solid defensive run-first team now, as long as Rivers keeps them in, like, good game management, doesn't take fouls, doesn't take penalties, doesn't get turnovers. They should be all right, just because their roster that they've built there is a quality roster. So they should be a good team going forward, and I still give them a chance to push for the division. I know the Titans are playing good, but the Colts are playing good too, and we'll see. I'm looking forward to that matchup, Colts versus Titans. That should be a good one. So shout out to the Colts, 3-1. Shout out to my homie Luis in San Diego. He's the only Colts fan I know. He's been a Colts fan for the longest, and they had a rough patch right there when Manning retired. And then once Luck retired, but now they have a solid team. It looks like they're turning their season around, their franchise around. So shout out to the Colts. And my last shout out before I start to get into these games, shout out to the Seahawks, 4-0. Russell Wilson for MVP. He tied the record for most touchdowns through 4 games in an NFL season, tying Peyton Manning. So he's just been playing lights out. The only reason the Seahawks are 4-0 is just Russell Wilson. If they didn't have Russell Wilson, there's a chance they'll be 0-4, and I'm not even lying. Russell Wilson is the MVP just because he's putting up the best numbers as a quarterback right now, and the team would just fall apart if he wasn't there. I feel like with Mahomes, Andy Reid will be able to figure it out. They have a lot of talent everywhere where they could probably make it work. Not obviously, I don't want to take nothing away from Mahomes. They'll obviously miss him, but they wouldn't miss him as much as the Seahawks would miss Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's the MVP. I'm going to keep saying it. Russell Wilson for MVP. Let's get this man a vote. Let's get this man an MVP. He's had a great season. He's had a great career. I think he deserves an MVP. He's playing like the best quarterback in the league. Shout out to Russell Wilson. 4-0. Beat the Dolphins. Division leaders. My Super Bowl prediction for the NFC East. The NFC is for the Seahawks to make it. So 4-0 Seahawks. Shout out to Russell Wilson. What a great quarterback. All right. So now that I got the shout outs out of the way, we can start talking about some of the games that really stood out to me. Some of the takes that really I got from this weekend. I just wanted to reiterate once again. I think I said this last podcast, but I want to reiterate it one more time. The NFC East is the weakest division in football, and it's not even close. The NFC East is embarrassing. It's atrocious. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's the worst division of football. It's honestly, I feel bad for NFC teams that are gonna do good, but they're gonna end up second place in their division. They're gonna end up with maybe like a 10-6 record, and they're gonna have to travel to whoever wins the NFC's division because they get a home game, and they don't deserve that. That division is a joke. They're the main reason why people are like, okay, we should reformat the playoffs where like just because you win your division, it shouldn't guarantee you a home game. Yeah, the NFC East is a joke. The Eagles had lost 2 games and had tied 1. They were 0-2-1. And just because they beat the Niners on Sunday night, they are now in first place of the division, which is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. Like, it's just bad. It's bad for that division. So yeah, let's just talk about the Eagles and the Niners real quick. The Eagles got lucky. Just because, I mean, I don't want to say lucky just because they have a lot of injuries too. They're missing like all their wide receivers. Their line is super beat up. But the Niners also have a lot of injuries, and they have an injury at the most important position, which is the quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt. He was out again for the Niners. And I've never been a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. I think my first episode, I was like, Jimmy Garoppolo is not good. And I mean, he's not good for like what people think he is. People think he's a franchise quarterback, and like he could get you, like he could put you over the hump, and he could be like responsible for putting an offense on his back. He's not that type of player. He's a quality starter. Don't get me wrong. Like if you have him as your quarterback, all right, you're cool. If you just need other pieces to be like really good. But then once you don't have him and you're starting Mullen and he just looks terrible and he's throwing pick sixes and he's just looks like the moment's too big for him, then that's when you really start struggling. And that's what happened with the Niners. They had a nice offensive drive in their first like 3 possessions to get that touchdown. They were looking really good, and then after that they just went cold. Mullins couldn't get the offense going. They couldn't get drives. They couldn't sustain drives. It just looked bad for the Niners. I feel bad for them, especially because they're in the hardest division of football, the NFC West. And hopefully for them, Garoppolo comes back soon and they're able to get some wins. Because man, if he's out for a sustained period or even like a couple more weeks, and they drop games here, it's gonna be hard for them to catch up because they don't have easy games in their division. They play in the NFC, it's probably the stronger conference. So, the Eagles, as far as the Eagles go, Wentz played a little better. He had been struggling this season. People were like calling for his job, which is ridiculous. That would never happen. He just signed a fat contract, and no, it would never happen. But played a little better. I feel bad for him. He just doesn't have weapons around him. Alshon Jeffrey's still hurt. Deshaun Jackson can't stay on the field anymore. He was throwing to Greg Ward, John Hightower, Travis Fulham, Deontay Burnett. Those were the wide receivers that he was throwing to. If you're not an Eagles fan or you're not related to one of these people and you know their name, like, I am super impressed with your knowledge of football because I had never heard of these. Like, I was watching the game. I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Like, man, I feel sorry for Wentz. But he got it done. The Eagles are now in first place of the NFC East. They control their destiny. They're leading that division. It's ridiculous, but I did pick them to win the division. So go Eagles fly. I picked both the Eagles and the Cowboys to make the playoffs, and there's no way that division sends two teams to the playoffs. But speaking of the Cowboys versus Browns, it was a great game. It was entertaining. Cowboys took a big lead, and then as has been customary these last couple of weeks, the Cowboys fought back valiantly and made it a game, but they lost. And now the Cowboys are 1-3. Not the start of the season that the Cowboys were hoping to get. They had a lot of signings, or like a lot of expectations coming into this year. They got Lamb, the wide receiver. They got a new head coach. Super Bowl winning head coach in McCarthy, and they have a solid team, top to bottom. They have one of the best rosters in the league, and I know Jerry Jones expects them to win, expects them to compete, and they're 1-3. The only reason the Cowboys are not in panic mode right now is because their division is terrible, and they're half a game out of the division lead at 1-3. But if I'm the Cowboys, if I'm Cowboy fans, I'm worried. That defense looks terrible. They look like anybody could score points on the Cowboys. If you play fantasy football, whatever player is playing against the Cowboys, start them. It's a foregone conclusion that they're going to do good. The Cowboys can't stop anybody. Last week, Russell Wilson destroyed them over the air, threw like 5 touchdowns. They had no answer for him. And then this week, they give 300 yards rushing to the Browns. They do have probably the best running game in the NFL, but 300 yards, like, come on, man. You got to be just bad in one. You can't be bad at both. If you're bad at through the air, at least be kind of stout against the run. Or if you're bad against the run, at least, be kind of decent through the air. They just keep getting gashed on both facets of the offense. Like, it's looking bad. It's looking bad for the Cowboys. Prescott has been playing pretty good. He's getting those stats up. But usually he gets those. I want Prescott to start off hot. The way he plays in the middle when they're way behind, I want him to come out firing like that. I want him to start the game off super strong, and for the Cowboys to take a 14-point lead and then just sustain that lead and put your defense in a better position where they're playing ahead instead of behind. Because if you start off slow, you should know that your defense can't hold down the fort. Your defense can't hold down the fort. You got to start off strong. You cannot score in your first few possessions. You can't turn the ball over. That was a costly turnover. He had a fumble, and then after that, the Browns just went on a run, and then Elliott fumbled too, and then they keep making mistakes. They keep turning the ball over. The offense needs to keep the ball because the defense is terrible, and the offense is good. So if the offense is good, they have to be the ones carrying that team. The offense needs to put that responsibility on their back. Say, if we want to be good, it's because the offense is gonna, control the tempo, have long drives, keep our defense fresh, keep the other offense off the field. And we can't shoot our defense on the foot having back-to-back turnovers and back-to-back plays because, the defense is barely trying to, stay afloat. So that's my small takeaway from the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, his stats look good. He's probably going to get paid. Numbers looked amazing. He's throwing over 500 yards in the game. He's throwing over 450 yards in the game. He got that amazing comeback against the Falcons, even though the Falcons could give up a comeback to anybody. But Prescott doesn't seem to be the issue. All he has to do is cut on those turnovers, give his defense a chance, and then somebody has to fix that defense. Do something. I don't know what you got to do, but do something. Make it at least half decent because the way they're playing right now is just atrocious. But luckily for you, Cowboy fans, Cowboy team, you're in the NFC East. You're in the NFC East, the worst division of football. You could probably fall to 1-5 and still be like a game out of first place by the time week six comes around. So, just these are growing pains. Just think of it like we're lucky. We're in the worst division of football. Let's try stuff out because if stuff doesn't try out, we probably won't be that far behind the division lead. So if something isn't working right now, just start trying something else because you're in the division that affords you that liberty to make up games at the end of the season since no one's really going to distance themselves from the pack. As far as the Browns go, the Browns are an interesting team. They're 3-1 now. They looked horrible against an elite team like the Ravens. And then since then, they've looked decent. Bengals, they looked all right. This week, they look better against the Cowboys. Before the season, I said the Browns were going to make the playoffs. And I'm pretty confident in that pick. I was like, all right, they have a lot of talent, a lot of offensive talent. They kind of rebuild their line. Their defense is amazing. They have probably the best rusher in the league right now, Myles Garrett, on their team. But I don't trust Mayfield. I really don't. And I think the Browns don't trust Mayfield, which is the worrying part. Or they know what they have with Mayfield. Like they were running end around throws. What's his name? Jarvis Landry is throwing 40-yard bombs to OBJ on like a trick play. They're doing end arounds just to get OBJ more more involved in the game because they probably don't trust Baker Mayfield to get him the ball. So I got to tip my hat off to the offensive coordinator. He's definitely like he's changed the Browns' offense. He's made it more exciting. He's made it more different. But I think my takeaway is that he's doing that because he doesn't trust Mayfield. He saw game one. He saw a little bit of the Bengals game when he threw that pick, and he's like, okay, you know what? If we throw 30, 40 times, Mayfield's going to mess this up. He's always due for like a pick or like a bad play. So let's just run the ball 35, 40 times. Let's keep Mayfield's throws, his count of throws as low as we can, and we'll have a chance. And I think they do have a chance. They have Chubb and Hunt. Chubb, I think he just got announced that he's going to be out for maybe 6-7 weeks. So hopefully he gets better. But Hunt is good enough where he could just carry the load by himself. Hunt, when he was with the Chiefs, he was an amazing running back. And then he had, his issues outside of football, and now he's back. So he's still a quality running back. I think they could run Hunt till Chubb comes back. And they could even, like, not rush Chubb back just because Hunt is, like, that good of a running back. At the end of the day, the Browns are stacked. They have one of the deepest rosters, one of the most star-studded rosters. They're deep everywhere. So I do still think they're going to make the playoffs like I predicted. I just don't see them making a playoff run just because in the playoffs, Mayfield's going to have to make throws. Mayfield's going to have to, elevate himself to like an upper echelon of quarterbacks. And I just don't see him as that type of quarterback yet. Maybe in the offseason he could keep growing, or maybe throughout the season he'll progress. But as of right now, I don't trust Mayfield to take him in a deep playoff run. Another quarterback that I really hadn't trusted, or I had my doubts about, was Tom Brady. Especially after game one, he hadn't looked the same. He looked kind of old. People are questioning his arm. He's over 40. That game yesterday against the Chargers, Brady looked amazing. Brady brought them back. He threw an ugly pick six at the beginning of the game, which got like all of Twitter going, got everybody talking about Brady. Everybody was like, okay, there it is. He's done. This is all the evidence we need. Like, he can't throw no more. This is like his fourth pick six in his last 6 games going back to last season. But then Brady turned it on. He looked good after that throw. He started connecting with people down the field. Godwin was out. O.J. Howard got hurt, and he's done for the season. So he was losing weapons. The offseason was weird because of COVID. He hasn't gotten those reps against with all these wide receivers that he has, and now they're falling down like flies. And he still got it done. He threw 5 touchdowns. He had over 100 yards with Mike Evans, I believe. He's starting to get that connection going. He just looked good, man. He looked good. The Bucks. If Brady could play like this, the Bucks are going to be a super, super tough out for anybody. I'm excited to see if Brady could keep this up. He's the GOAT. Growing up, I always liked Manning over Brady. Like, I don't know why. I just like Manning's like pre-huddle or like pre-snap. I like his pre-snaps, like audibles. I like how he played the game. I liked all his hand signals, all that stuff. So I was more of a Manning than Brady guy. But I cannot deny that Brady is the GOAT. Brady is the best quarterback of all time. He's the most accomplished. The things he has done are just, some of them are unfathomable. And or now, if he goes on a deep playoff run with the Bucks, it's just like, okay, like he's just pushing himself so much further out from anybody. And he's probably motivated because Mahomes from the Chiefs looks like he could potentially push Brady's status for the all-time best quarterback. So yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Brady. It was nice to see Brady have a good game. It was pretty like eye-catching. I was watching the game and I was like, damn, like he's 43. Like what? That's crazy. He's playing way better than like all these other, which kind of got me thinking, like if the Niners would have traded for him, how good would they be right now? Which is it's a topic for a different story. But Brady, I mean, I've seen analysts say that this is an anomaly, that Brady's arm is done, that he hasn't been able to throw like this since like 2018, 2017. That this was just like a like once in a blue moon that he's gonna have a good game like this, and that he's gonna regress to like being an old quarterback that can't push the ball down the field. But we'll see. The one thing I've learned through my years of watching football is that you don't bet against Brady. You just don't. If you're trying to lose money, bet against Brady, because he figures out how to get stuff done. And but yeah, the Bucs look good. As far as the Chargers go in that game, Herbert looked really, really nice. The Chargers have found their quarterback. I was a little bit skeptical on Herbert just because it looked like he was super raw. It looked like they kind of got him too early. They could have gotten somebody else further down the draft, and they would have had almost the same value. But shout out to the Chargers. They found their quarterback. He looks really, really good. Him and Joe Burrow have just looked really, really solid to start their careers off. Herbert especially. Joe Burrow is not so much of a surprise just because he's older. He's a little bit older. His game is more refined. People were saying that maybe his ceiling wasn't as high, but his floor was super high just because he's just a really good thrower of the football. But Herbert has looked great, man. He's making down the field throws. He's throwing the ball to like receivers that like they're not big names. Obviously, Keenan Allen is a big name, but he was throwing passes to like receivers that I don't even know their names. He was making that offensive click. The Chargers actually look like a decent offense with him on the field. I watched like the first game with Tyrod Taylor, and it just looked bad. It looked like the offensive coordinator couldn't call all the plays that he wanted. It looked like they were very limited in what they could do just because Tyrod Taylor, everyone always celebrates how much of a professional he is and how good of a teammate he is. And that's fine and all. I respect Tyrod Taylor, but his game is very limited. If you have him as your starting quarterback, you're not really aspiring to do much of anything in the NFL season. You're just an irrelevant team, in my opinion, if you have Tyrod Taylor as your starting quarterback. That's why I was like, I still have a lot of Charger friends and Charger homies, and I'm from San Diego, so I know they're not in San Diego, but I'm from San Diego, so that was the team I rooted for when they were there. So I still have a lot of Chargers like news and feeds like on my Twitter or stuff like that. And I was just opposed to getting Tyrod Taylor as a starting quarterback. I was either you get a rookie QB and you let them do their thing, or you get Cam Newton. And Coach Lynn obviously liked Tyrod Taylor a lot, but it's unfortunate that the doctor punctured his lung while trying to give him a shot, and that it sucks that he's gonna lose his job because of that, because that's super unfortunate. Like, that shouldn't happen ever. But the way Herbert has been playing, there's no denying that the offense and the team as a whole is better with him. And if Coach Lynn doesn't do that change, if Tyrod Taylor comes back and he keeps his job, I know he's gonna lose the locker room. I feel like he's already losing the locker room. He's already losing the fans. But if Lynn starts Tyrod Taylor, I think Charger fans should, riot. Should go do something. should tweet at him. Not hurt the man, but they should voice their opinion on what a bad decision that would be. Because with Tyrod Taylor, the Chargers are just another AFC mediocre team that no one really cares about. No one's really worried. With Justin Herbert, the Chargers could be potentially like a thorn on teams' sides. They could spoil a season for somebody. They could steal a game from somebody and ruin their season. They have the potential to be that team. I don't think the Chargers are gonna make the playoffs. It's too early in Herbert's career, and Coach Lynn might not be the best coach to get the job done, but they could definitely spoil a season or two for some teams that are vying for those wild card spots. So if I'm the Chargers, bench Tyrod Taylor, apologize to him, send him some flowers and cookies, tell him that the puncturing of his lung was super accidental, that it's never going to happen again. Hopefully he doesn't sue you guys. But Justin Herbert, he should be their starting quarterback moving forward. And the future is bright for that kid. He looks great. He throws the ball with a lot of confidence. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for all my Charger friends. It looks like you guys now have a legit quarterback. And, yeah, he looks good. The last game that I wanted to talk about from week 4 of the NFL was Vikings versus Texans. Before this week, I had said they were both 0-3. Both teams made the playoffs last year. Both teams won a playoff game last year. The Vikings beat the Saints, and then the Texans beat the Bills, and both of them had at least playoff aspirations for this year, or maybe even more. The Texans have, I think, the most expensive team in the league right now, so they had at least playoff hopes for this year. Like the Vikings invested a lot of money. They gave Cousins a extension. Both teams, I just want to reiterate, both teams had playoff aspirations minimum, and they both came into this week 0-3. Whoever lost was going to go to 0-4 and just done. I think both teams are done, but once you 0-4, like that's a wrap for your season. You're done. So my prediction before the game was that whoever loses this game, their coach is not going to make it to the end of the season. And the Vikings won. So fire Bill O'Brien, Texans. What are you guys waiting for? He's a bad coach. He's a worse GM. He doesn't know what he's doing. He comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. That's the only reason why he got this job, or why he still has this job. He's connected. He's probably connected really well. He must have some dirt on the Texans GM. That's the only reason I could see why he's still the head coach for the Texans. He has completely mishandled that team. They're in a horrible cap situations. They don't have their first round picks. They can't protect the Watson. They lost their star wide receiver. They traded for an old running back. Their defense can't stop anybody. It just looks terrible. What are the Texans doing? Fire Bill O'Brien. Move on from that mess. Help Watson. Watson is probably top 5 QB in the league. I love his game. Like, help him. They really traded his number 1 receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the league, Hopkins, for David Johnson, a washed running back that hasn't been the same in the last 3-4 years. He had like one really, really good year 4 years ago, and you traded for him. He's obviously washed. That's why the Cardinals traded for Drake. And now you traded your best wide receiver for him. And then you trade a first, I think they traded a first for Cooks. And he had 0 catches for 0 yards, 2 targets. Just, he's not a good wide receiver. He's bounced around the league. The Patriots didn't want him. The Rams didn't want him. There's a reason for this. And, it's just, Bill O'Brien has just done a disservice to the Texans. He's done a disservice to Watson. It's just bad. It's embarrassing that the Texans, I think they actually gave him a contract extension this year too, at the end of last year, and he just completely mishandled that playoff game against the Chiefs. They had a 24-0 lead and they blew it, going for fake punts, and not going for it on 4th and 1, in their on the opponent's side. Like, what are you doing? I feel sorry for Texans fans. They deserve better. They had a rough end of the tenure with Matt Schaub. That ended ugly. And then now they have Watson and they had Hopkins, and they're like, all right, that's our new modern age Schaub and Andre Johnson. And it just doesn't seem like this is gonna end well either. And it just looks like, come on, we've had a good quarterback and wide receiver play for the best latter part of these last 5-10 years, and we can't get anything done. So it's just unfortunate for the Texans. They traded for David Johnson and Brandon Cooks. That should tell you all you need to know about Bill O'Brien. Fire Bill O'Brien. He's done. He lost that locker room. He's not a good coach. Get him back to New England. He's better as a coordinator. Move on from your mistake. Help Watson. Watson deserves a better coach. Someone that could actually help him out. Someone that could protect him. As far as the Vikings, I think they're done too. They got this win, which is good. But they play Seattle next. And then they play the Falcons. And then they play Green Bay again. And they're not going to beat the Seahawks. They might beat the Falcons. And they're not going to beat Green Bay. So they're going to lose 2 out of their next 3. They're already 1-3. They're about to go 2-5. At 2-5, you're done. I don't want to hear it. No, wait, 2-5, 1-3, 1-2. Yeah, 2-5. They're gonna be 2-5. Season's done. Like I said, they should have had playoff or higher aspirations. They finally got a playoff win with Cousins last year, but they're done. That defense is too beat up. Their running back Cook is running well, but he can't do everything. honestly, Cousins is not playing all that bad. He's playing all right. But I just don't trust him to lead them into a second playoff run, or I don't trust them to bring them back this season. Like, they're 1-3. They're about to be 2-5. They're done. The one silver lining for the Vikings is that the Justin Jefferson, this big wide receiver from LSU, he looks like he's a real deal. They should be excited for him. Pairing him next to Thielen, it should be great moving forward. They just gotta retool that defense, offensive line a little bit, and just run it back maybe next year. I just don't see them coming back this year, and the schedule is hard. Green Bay and Seahawks is just gonna be tough. They might even lose to the Falcons. The Falcons, for all the crap they get, they could put up points against anybody, and the Vikings defense is beat up. So we'll see. But I think the Vikings are done. The Texans are for surely done. That's a wrap. File Bill O'Brien. So yeah, that was the NFL Week 4. It was a fairly entertaining week. Maybe not as entertaining as the other weeks, just because the matchups weren't like anything crazy. But we still have 2 games today. Later on, right now it's Monday, like around noon. So we still got the Chiefs. The Chiefs versus Patriots game, but what's his name? Cam Newton's not gonna be playing because of COVID, so Chiefs should win handily. And then Falcons versus Green Bay. Falcons, let's see if they could turn their season around. Let's see if they could at least get one win. I don't think so. Green Bay should run away with it. And then because of COVID, the Titans versus Steelers game got postponed, so that got pushed back. So still 3 games from this week that are still in the air that we still got to see what results they have. But yeah, week four of the NFL, it was a good week. It was a good week if you're a Brady fan. It was a good week if you're a Seahawks fan. It's a good week if you're an Eagles fan, I guess. I mean, I don't know how happy you could be being in the lead at 1-2-1, but yeah, week 4 of the NFL. Let's move on to the Premier League. I've been wanting to talk about the Premier League. Premier League had a crazy weekend. Just unprecedented results all over the league. Leicester couldn't beat Leeds. United got trashed. Liverpool got trashed. Just a crazy weekend. I do have to say this. I said this in one of my other podcasts. I feel like defense in soccer is at an all-time low right now. Like even the elite teams, the teams in the Premier League that are definitely pushing for the title, their defense is not good. They make a lot of mental mistakes. They leave a lot of gaps. It's a lot of teams get a lot of chances on them, and they either have really good keeping at the back, or the other teams just can't put their chances away. And it's not like one team that I just look at. It's like Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United. Even like Leicester, they be having like bad defensive moments. Like it just looks like across the league, across the world. Like even like I remember Real Madrid messed up, Moran messed up, Barca has a bad defense. Like it's just you just look across the league and the world of soccer, and it just feels like defense is just bad. It's a bad time for defense right now. A lot of mistakes. Like a lot of mistakes that you would expect to happen like every so often, and then you make fun of them because they're not that common. But now these mistakes are coming so often that you can't really clown on a defender for making that mistake, because you're like, oh, you're just like the person that did that mistake last week, or not even last week, like earlier today or yesterday. If that makes any sense. It made sense in my head, but basically I'm trying to say that these mistakes are more common now, so players are getting more of a pass just because they're so common, whereas back in the day they weren't as common. So if you make one of these mistakes, you'll be like, well, what are you doing? Like, you're making a really bad mistake. And now it's like, well, I can't really, clown on you too hard because such and such defender just did the same thing last week, and such a defender just did that mistake earlier today. And it's just like, defense is bad. We need an influx of talent. We need Italy, what are you doing? Get us some defenders. Germany, get us some defenders. Like Defenders, if you have a strong center back presence or like two pairing, like just hold on to them, because defense is super hard to replace right now. Just the best defender in the world, Van Dijk, like he's really good, but even him, he can't like cover for everyone on his line. They be having lapses too. But yeah, let's get started right away. The first game I wanted to talk about, Manchester United. What is wrong with Manchester United? What's going on with Manchester United? Like, ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, that franchise, that team has just been terrible. They can't seem to get their coach right. They can't seem to get their roster right. The roster has never looked like a competent roster. It doesn't look like the pieces fit together. It's just like, what? Like, it's been like 7 years since he left, and they still can't get it together. And yesterday they had Mourinho come back to Old Trafford, one of their probably the most successful coach they've had since Sir Alex. And he got kicked out and he left kind of ugly, and people didn't like him. But man, Mourinho, when he exited Manchester, he said that getting second place with that Manchester United team was probably the biggest accomplishment in his career, or one of the biggest accomplishments in his career. And people saw that as a shot at United, just because, dude, Mourinho is super accomplished. He's won the treble, I believe, twice with Porto and Milan and Inter Milan. And then for him to say that getting second place with United is one of his biggest accomplishments, it just felt like, all right, it's Mourinho being Mourinho, just taking a shot at United. But honestly, United should not be sniffing second place with the roster they have. Even now, they have a better roster now than when Mourinho was there. But at that time, if you look at the roster, that roster has no business being second place. So that was probably a master job by Mourinho, just getting them to second place. And then since then, they've only sniffed top three, I think, twice, which was last year, and then with Mourinho when they got second place. And even last year, they backed into that third spot. They didn't particularly play that good. But I mean, United has spent a lot of money. I don't think they're bad because they're not spending money. I think they're bad because they're spending money in the wrong players. They're not developing their players once they get there. They've missed on their coaches for the most part. Ole needs to go. I mean, what are the signings that they've made? They brought in like Alexis Sanchez. They brought in Depay. Like, all these signings have just been bust. And the most recent ones are Pogba's been there for 3-4 years now, and he's never looked like the Juve Pogba. He's never looked like the player that warranted all that hype. I remember, if you guys don't remember, when Pogba was like getting ready to leave Juve, everybody wanted him. He was a generational talent. Real Madrid wanted him. Barcelona wanted him. United wanted him. City wanted him. Everybody wanted him. And United were the ones that got him, and I was like, damn, all right, he's gonna come in there and he's gonna change United. He's that type of talent. And he looks like a liability now. It looks like he's lazy out there. He makes half chances. He makes half-ass slides. He gave away a penalty yesterday because he did like a really lazy slide that he just like left his body on the ground, and the player, being smart, dragged his foot and earned a penalty. And I believe like on the fifth goal, he was supposed to be covering for his right back, and he's just walking easy through pass where Pogba should have been, and then they score. He just looks like he's not interested in playing hard. He's not even like 70% of the player he was at Juve, where he was scoring bangers from all over the field. He was running from one end of the field to the other, just dribbling through defenders. He has never looked that way for United. I think they should cut their losses. They should get rid of him and get a player that fits better with Bruno Fernandes, and just move on for him, because Pogba, the Juve Pogba, is never going to show up for United. It's been long enough. It just doesn't seem like that was a good fit, that was a good transfer. They should move on. They should let him. I think Juve fits him better. He should just go to a different team. He needs to change his scenery, because it's just not working out at United. But with that being said, that has not been the worst signing by United. The worst signing in recent history, Harry Maguire, for 80 million euros. Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous. This man is terrible. He's so bad at soccer. I don't know how he's the most expensive center back ever. Like, it's laughable to think that they spent 80 million euros on this guy. Um, it's just bad. Like, if you watch the game, they got absolutely wrecked by Tottenham, but they were up 1-0 because they got an early penalty, and then Maguire just shits the bed basically. He has a ball, he has a defender on him. He tries to header it back to one of his teammates. It bounces off him, goes over his head, and then he just starts going on full panic mode. He doesn't know how to clear the ball. Luke Shaw's in front of him. Looks like he could be in a good position to clear the ball. Maguire kind of tackles Luke Shaw to the ground instead of just letting him clear. The ball just keeps bouncing in the box, and then Tottenham pushes it in to the goal, and it's 1-1. And then Maguire is asking for a foul, asking for like getting on his teammates. The worst part is Maguire is the captain. You have that weak ass defender as your captain. What are you doing, United? And that falls on the coach. Like, how are you gonna sign Maguire as your captain? Give it to Bruno. Give it to somebody that's actually decent, actually good. Give it to Rashford. Give it to somebody. Don't give it to your mediocre, waste of space defender. Like, that's disgusting. Like, there's no way he should. Because now if you bench him, you're benching your captain. Like, it just makes it harder. It's already hard enough to bench him just because you spend so much money on him. But now he's your captain too. It's just, why would you put yourself in that predicament? You've been known he's not a good center back. Take that captain armband off him. He's terrible. In the second goal, there was another one. There was another moment where he's super clumsy. I think Harry Kane's checking to receive the ball. He like chests the ball, and then Harry Maguire just comes from behind and just tackles him. Super clumsy, just tackles him in the back. And then Harry Kane, being the smart player that he is, gets up quickly, sees the hole that Maguire left by coming to foul him, puts it through ball to Son, and then Son's left one-on-one against the keeper, and just does a little nice chip, and Tottenham takes a 2-1 lead. And it's just like, man, Maguire, you're the worst. You're not worth even 40 million euros or 20. Like, how much money could United potentially get back from Maguire? I don't know. I would not want to get him. He reminds me of Kepa. Like, he's the most expensive keeper, and he's cheeks. That's the same thing I think about Maguire, but probably even worse. Probably worse. Maguire is just, he's terrible. He's so bad. I feel sorry for United fans. You went from having Vidic and Rio Ferdinand to having Harry freaking Maguire that can't do nothing. United needs a new coach. They need a new center back. They need a new right back. They need new forwards. They need a lot of stuff, man. Thankfully, it looks like they're gonna sign Cavani on a free. He's a free agent, so they could get Cavani, but that's not gonna really help them. They need to shore up their defense. Luke Shaw, after that injury that he's had, even before, he was never that great of a defender in my opinion. After that injury, he's just fallen off a cliff. He leaves that side super exposed and puts his center backs in a bad position, and they're already not that good. Maguire needs to go. Luke Shaw needs to go. Ole needs to go. It's just, it's laughable. It's upsetting that United has fallen this far. They weren't the only team that got trashed this weekend, but they're the worst team off out of all the teams right now, because United had history and they got trashed and they got nothing going for them. Like, there's not a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a bad team. It's been a rough time since Sir Alex left, and it looks like it's not getting better. It looks like it's getting worse. So, United, you got to do something, man. It, like I said, I don't think they'll fall as far off as like AC Milan fell off, but the world of soccer is better when AC Milan is a powerhouse or when they're relevant. And I feel like it's the same with United. The world soccer is better when United is a relevant team. The EPL is better when United is a relevant championship contending team, and they're just not that right now, and it's upsetting and it sucks, but they got to do something, and I think it starts with letting go of Ole. He was a good player for them. He's not a good head coach. He hasn't done anything as a coach to warrant being the head coach for United. He got Stoke relegated. Like, get him out of here. Get Pochettino. Move on. United, you gotta do something. You can't just keep going on like this. It's upsetting. I'm not a United fan, and it's getting me like super worked up. But I know United fans are not happy. They deserve better. Fire Ole. Get rid of Maguire. Get rid of Luke Shaw. Tell Papa to get his act together, or else he's out too. And that should be what they're preaching. But thankfully for United, Liverpool was like, you'll never walk alone, and got trashed by Aston Villa 7-2. They're the first champions in the Premier League era to allow 7 goals to get scored on them. Super surprising result. Not gonna lie, not gonna be like, oh, I saw this coming. No one saw this coming. Liverpool have been playing relatively good. They started off kind of slow against Leeds. I felt like Leeds deserved a tie on match day number 1, but they were able to, sneak out the 4-3 victory. And then after that, they beat Chelsea and they beat Arsenal. And I was like, all right, Liverpool got this, man. This is the Liverpool that we want to see. And now they dropped a 7-2 loss to Aston Villa. And Aston Villa is having a surprise season, but there's no reason Liverpool should be losing to Aston Villa, let alone letting them score 7 goals on them. They looked flat. They looked uninspired. They looked like they gave up. Like, at some point, you got to have some pride and say, all right, they scored 5 on us. They scored 4 or 5 on us. That's it. They're not going to score any more on us. We're the reigning champions. We've been talked about as one of the best teams ever. We've been in that conversation after the start we had last year. We've made signings. We should potentially push for a treble this year. We had a bad day. It stops here. They're not going to score more than 5 goals on us. We're going to hunker down. We're going to take this beating on the chin, and we're going to move on from it, and we're going to grow from this, and that's it. But they didn't do that. They allowed them to score 7 goals on them, which is just so bad. Like 5, all right, bad day. 7, man, what are you guys doing? I think it starts with Mane being out because of COVID and Alisson being out because of an injury. I've been saying this about Liverpool. They need to find a better keeper, backup keeper. They just have to find a better backup keeper, because Alisson, he might be the best keeper in the world right now. You could debate that with like other keepers, but he's definitely in the conversation for the best keeper in the world. If you have him as your number 1, I'm not mad. If you have Oblak as your 1, I'm not mad either. It doesn't matter. He's the top 3 keeper for sure. Top 3, top 4. When he's out, they really miss him. The thing about Alisson is, like, every season he's due to miss at least a couple games. He always gets a little knock here and there. And Liverpool should know that by now. And they should know that going into the season, having all these lofty goals and having Adrian as your backup is not the play. It's not a good play. It's not a good look. Like, you can't just hope Alisson's always going to be healthy, because we've seen that he gets hurt. So the backup just got to be better. They have to invest into a better backup keep. Adrian started off the day giving the ball away to Aston Villa and letting them basically score a push-in goal. It was just open goal, basically. And he's just bad. And the team has enough talent to come back after a mistake like that, but they just look flat. I don't want to give Adrian all the blame, because honestly, Aston Villa could have dropped 10 on Liverpool. They just didn't finish some of their chances. They had 2 or 3 like open goal, not open goals, but like one-on-one kind of situations where if you have a clinical finisher, like, that should be it. It should be a wrap. It should be a goal. But they like didn't kick it right, and it went to the side, and I was like, damn. Like, especially when it was like 3-1 or something, I was like, damn, they could really push this, and they missed their chances. And I still thought, like, oh my god, like this missed chance is gonna hurt them. Like, you can't, just because you're up like 3-1 on Liverpool, it doesn't mean like you're gonna win. I always thought like Liverpool's gonna come back, and I'm like, damn, those missed chances, they might look back at this and they're gonna think like Leeds. They're gonna be like, damn, we were up so much and we lost 4-3. So I always thought Liverpool had like have that punching power where they could always come back. And Aston Villa was missing some clear chances. So I was like, damn, it's gonna come back to bite them. But they dropped 7 on them. It could have been 10, and Liverpool has to come back from this. The thing Liverpool has going for this, that you could see this game and you could be like, all right, it was one bad game and we'll get back to it. We're still the champions. We still have trouble with aspirations, and we've had a good like 2-3 year run where like it kind of shields us from all the negativity. United hasn't done nothing in the last few years, so it just seems like they're going on nosedive. For Liverpool, I'll say this about them: just get a better backup keep. Hope Alisson comes back and get that defense together, because it seems like teams have figured out how to expose Liverpool. They like to push their wingbacks up. So if you get them if you get them like backpedaling, if you find that hole that they leave pushing their wingbacks up, it's kind of easy to get their defense scrambling. So yeah, like ever since the restart last year, or ever since like Liverpool kind of wrapped up the EPL season last year and they took that big lead, ever since that Watford loss, that Liverpool defense has not looked the same. I don't know what's going on. It could just be that teams are figuring them out, but that defense has not looked the same since that loss to Watford last season. And I've been mentioning it. I thought the excuse I gave them last season is, all right, they pretty much wrapped up the season. Like, what are they really playing for right now? Just records? Like, yeah, that could motivate you, but that's not enough. That could not be enough. So that was the pass or excuse I gave them last season. All right, you know what? They wrapped up the season. Like, you got to cut them some slack. Like, they're champions already. Why are they gonna go out there and try for like as hard as they would when they weren't like secured? But now the season started. They're trying to repeat. They're trying to get the treble, and their defense still has a lot of holes. They've given up 11 goals in like 4 games or 3 games. It's just not a good performance. I need Van Dijk to step up. I need Van Dijk to get that defense together, and I need Klopp to get that defense together, because if they don't, it'll be a long season. I don't think it'll be a long season, but they definitely won't run away with it as they did last year, and the treble goals will go down. Because if you go to Europe with this defense, or you're making these mistakes in Europe in the Champions League, bad things are going to happen to you. As far as Aston Villa, I want to apologize. I want to say I'm sorry. Last year, you guys barely missed relegation. I had you guys as one of the team that was gonna get relegated this year. I thought Grealish might leave, and I just didn't like the roster that you guys were building. But they made a nice signing in Ollie Watkins, highest transfer for a championship player going to the EPL. He scored a hat-trick yesterday. He looked good, especially that second goal where he put it like on the top right corner. That was class. Shout out to Ollie Watkins. It looks like he's a good signing. Jack Grealish is playing out of his mind. He had like 2 goals and he had a couple assists, I believe, too. He was really involved. He was dribbling all over Van Dijk. He made him look bad. He made that whole defense look bad. Shout out to Jack Grealish. He's always been a good player. They've linked him with big teams for numerous years because he's a quality player. Maybe he stays a little longer just because they look good. They're in second place right now. Aston Villa, they got 9 points. Unless something really bad happens or a lot of injuries hit this team, Aston Villa should stay up in the Premier League this year. So I'm sorry. I had you as one of the 3 teams that I had getting relegated. That was on me. I read the room wrong. I didn't read the roster right. You guys are definitely putting some teams. You guys are raising eyebrows. Shout out to Aston Villa. You guys look good. I hope you guys keep it together and keep playing good. It was you guys made yesterday even more shocking. It was already shocking once Tottenham destroyed Manchester United, but now this was just like, oh, whoa, what's going on today? Type of moment once Aston Villa beat Liverpool. But yeah, Liverpool, get your stuff together. Luckily for you guys, the day before, Manchester City dropped points against Leeds. Manchester City just hasn't looked good at all to start the season. It looks like they're missing their firepower. They're not scoring the goals that they're accustomed to scoring. Their defense looks weak. Another team that has spent a lot of money and just can't seem to get their defense together. This is all the evidence I need to keep harping on the point that defense across the world is just at all-time low. Big teams are spending big money on defense, and it just doesn't seem to get better. Manchester City, namely being one of them, I think it has to do with their high press. They press really high, so their backline is really high. So if you send balls over the top, they get kind of exposed. So maybe Manchester City should push back a little bit more and give their defense a little help by dropping them back a little more. But they're lucky. They're lucky that Leicester lost. They're lucky that Liverpool lost. They're lucky that Manchester United lost. They're lucky that Chelsea dropped points to West Brom last week, because they could have put themselves in a hole already, losing to Leicester last weekend and tying Leeds. I think City will get it together. Guardiola is a good head coach, and the roster that they have is amazing. They probably have the best roster along with Liverpool in the whole EPL. So just off the strength of that, they should have enough. They should have enough to get it together and compete for the championship. But it's just one of these things. Like this, if you're losing points to Leeds, like when like City, their goal should be to win league and Champions League, and like they should tune their defense during the EPL season so that when they go to Europe, they're not just playing horrible and getting knocked out. Because it's kind of getting to the point where it's embarrassing that City has not progressed further in the Champions League after all the money that they've spent. They need to get to a final. They need to get to a semifinal, and really, get their money's worth for all the money they spent. And just matches like this against Leeds is another thing that you're like, okay, it's just United. I mean, City. You realistically you just have goals to win the league, and that's pretty much it. Like, you don't play with the competitive drive that you need to go win in Europe. But I might be wrong. It might just be a little slip up, 2 slip ups in 2 weeks. Leeds United, they've looked like a solid team. They probably should have gotten a tie against Liverpool in week 1. Unlucky to not get a point, and now they get a point from City. It looks like they're building something over there. It's always nice to see small teams, get results or sneak up against the top 6 and give them a scare. So it was nice to see Leeds. It's been nice to see Leeds be competitive at the beginning of the season. I don't know if they'll be able to sustain it. It looks like they really try for their head coach. Their head coach has them like playing really, really strong and really tough, and they're running all over the place. And it looks like they're basically saving no stamina like for after the game. They're leaving it all out on the field, which is there's more than you could say for a lot of coaches, just to have your players playing all out for you. So good for Leeds. Hopefully they get to keep improving and they stay in the Premier League. They're a pretty fun team to watch, and I like watching them. So I hope they stay in the Premier League. So I just wanted to give Everton a shout out. Top of the league, 4-4. Is Merseyside blue? That's the question for today. Is Merseyside blue? Like, hey, we've been hyping up Liverpool these last few years, and now Everton looks like they've awakened. They're there. The Merseyside Derby is in 2 weeks. EPL is off this week because of international duties. International teams, they're going to go play for the international team. So the EPL is on a 1 week break. But when we come back in 2 weeks, Everton versus Liverpool, the Merseyside Derby, is it blue? Is it red? We'll find out. Liverpool got trashed 7-2. So, they'll be wanting to bounce back and show everyone that they're the champions and that they should be the favorites. Everton is firing on all cylinders, 4-4. James Rodriguez looks like 2014 Brazil. James Rodriguez, he's amazing. He might be the best number 10 in the league. That position is kind of dying, but James is bringing it back. He looks like he's stringing the offense. The offense looks super fluid, super fun team going forward. Calvert-Lewin has 9 goals in 6 games. He got that England call-up now. He's a tall striker that can move. He's good with his head. He's good with his foot. Ancelotti looks like he turned that team around. With the head coach before him, I saw the statistic that once Everton were down, they never got a win with their previous head coach. So if you were just up 1-0 on Everton, the worst that could happen is that they would tie. That they would tie against Everton. Like that, there was no possibility. There was not even a chance that Everton would come back and take the game from you guys. And under Ancelotti, that's already happened numerous times. They've gone down on the field. They've gone down to other teams. And I think I said the longest that they take to come back and score the equalizer is 6 minutes, which is ridiculous. It just shows that Ancelotti has changed the team's mentality. They're playing hard for him. They never quit. They know that they could come back in a game. And yeah, Everton looks really good. It's a really fun team to watch. If you guys haven't seen Everton play, it's a must watch. Liverpool versus Everton is a must watch. It's in 2 weeks. What's today? It's the 15th. I think it's in 12 days. It's on the 17th, I believe. Watch that game. Circle that game into your calendars. Everton versus Liverpool is going to be a great game. Top of the leaderboards right now. Everton against the current champions. Merseyside Derby. James has looked amazing. Everton has looked amazing. Liverpool is still Liverpool. It's gonna be a great game. Ancelotti versus Klopp. Another storyline. It's just gonna be a fun game. If you're not planning on watching this game, I suggest you watch it. But yeah, that was my takeaways and what I got from Matchday 4 of the EPL of the Premier League season. It was a crazy weekend of sports. Crazy weekend of sports. But yeah, this has been episode number 9 of the Hard to Handle Sports podcast. My name's Ismael San Juan. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. If you made it this far, subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Have a good one.